please use the brain cells that I know that you have. Editing is your friend because my God, this book was so fucking long. Do you know how dull a book has to be for me to put all of that work into reading it and to still DNF it? Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for this video because I went on a Darcy Coates journey last year. Last year, I realized I had already read at least 40 to 50% of Darcy Coates' backlist. She is one of my favorite horror authors, and so I decided that I wanted to finish her backlist. I did, and so we're in the new year doing the video that I have been looking forward to since I first decided to read Darcy Coates' entire backlist, and that is tier ranking every book Darcy Coates has ever written. The fact that I can do this kind of video where I had read her entire backlist and still be so excited for her new releases and still be so excited to make content around it, I think just speaks volumes to the fact that I just love Darcy Coates and Darcy Coates books, and I will tell you, not all of her horror books are cozy horror books. So let's just get that out the way. Let's clear that misconception. And without further ado, I am going to get my laptop so we can start tier ranking all of the books that Darcy Coates has written. This is part 1 of 2. Tier ranking Darcy Coates books is for me, it's for fun time, and then I'm going to do a beginner's guide to Darcy Coates. If you're trying to figure out which books you should start with if you want to get into Darcy Coates, so look forward to that video. But without further ado, let's get to ranking. I have the tier ranker up. I'm in a little window. Darcy Coates' backlist is absolutely massive. But if that intimidates you, just to let you know, a lot of the short stories later in her backlist are actually compiled into her short story collections. The Station 331 series, I believe, is in Parasite, and that's gonna shorten the list. So all the books that you see on the screen right now are the books that are currently available for you to pick up and read. So to start with, The Whispering Dead, The Ravenous Dead, and The Twisted Dead are all series around a woman who can speak to ghosts. They truly are cozy horrors. The Whispering Dead, she's just that girl. And I realized that I should probably tell you the tiers before we get into tier ranking. At the bottom, we have boring. Just books that were forgettable, not very interesting. Sorry, I know that's mean, but it's just the truth. Editing is your friend. Sounds very harsh, but what I mean is that it's a well-written book and it could have been a lot more enjoyable if more editing was put in terms of only keeping the essential scenes and not bogging it down. Meh is, could I tell you what this book was about? Maybe, but ultimately not really memorable, but I had fun when I read it. This is what we've been waiting for, said exactly the way that you hear it in SpongeBob. This is what we've been waiting for. Is I had a really good time with this. I remember it, I would recommend it, and I just really enjoyed it. And She's Just That Girl is top tier. Fantastic horror. I think you should read it. I think it's amazing. I absolutely adored it. So those are the tiers, so let's get into ranking. As I was saying, The Whispering Dead, she is just that girl. This is such a fun book, especially if you love cozy horrors. I will not be giving you summaries for all of these books, by the way. This video would be too long if I did that. Then we have The Ravenous Dead, which is book 2, which I would put at meh. It had some exciting scenes in it. I still really enjoyed being with the characters, but plot-wise, it's pretty forgettable. And then The Twisted Dead is, this is what we've been waiting for. This is much more action-packed than either of the first books. And while the villainous plot in here is a little bit ridiculous, it's still a very fun book to read, and I think a satisfying third book in the series. The 4th book is coming out this year, and I'm very excited to get to it. And we might as well stick with the series. We have the Voices in the Snow series. Listen, number 1, she is just that girl. A little bit of romantic suspense. Listen, this is cozy caretaking, but make it horror apocalypse, and I loved it. Voices in the Snow was fantastic. Secrets in the Dark, if you've seen my Darcy Coates reading vlog, you will know annoyed me. I'm not going to put it at editing is your friend, but I will put it at meh, not because it's forgettable, but just because our main female character annoyed me so much with her stupid decisions that I can't put it at I enjoyed this. I was more like, please use the brain cells that I know that you have. By the way, if I sound very hoarse, I still have a cough. It takes me a long ass time to get over things. Like, listen, it's there, it's lingering. Silence in the Shadows. She got me. She got me because I wasn't enjoying it at first, again, because of annoying ass fucking characters. I won't tell you. There's a hair on my face. I won't tell you which character was annoying as fuck, but they were annoying. But then you find out why they were annoying. And I was like, Darcy, she got me because I did not see that coming. Silence in the Shadows. This is what we've been waiting for. It's fun. Just push through the annoyance. As I've mentioned, Darcy's ability to evoke emotions is just top notch because I was pissed, but I was loving it. And then the final book in this series is Whispers in the Mist, which I would realistically put somewhere between She's Just That Girl and This Is What We've Been Waiting For. But I'm going to put it at This Is What We've Been Waiting For. Because as much as I love this, and as much as I think this series would make such a fun TV show, this book was really just a series of scenes leading up to just like the conclusion. There wasn't one overarching plot. It's more like this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And then we got to the place where we were aiming to get to the whole time, but then this happened. I loved it. I really had a good time with it, but I can't put it at She's Just That Girl because of the reasons I just mentioned. And then the final series on this list is House of Shadows and House of Secrets. To be truthful with you, I don't remember a lot of book one. I really don't. Book two I read recently, so I can, but I read book one years ago. House of Shadows is a historical horror with some romantic undertones. We're following our female main character who has just been put into an arranged marriage with this man, and she goes to live with him at his home, except his family is really creepy and perhaps the family is cursed, and because she married into it, she's now also cursed and she's dealing with the consequences of that. It is romantic in a way, and I love the historical elements to it, but because I can't really remember it, I would put it at meh. I have strong feelings about it, but just know that if I could remember more of the plot, it probably would go into This Is What We've Been Waiting For. I just need a reread. House of Secrets I finished recently, however, and I am gonna put it at This Is What We've Been Waiting For. And while this is certainly paranormal horror in a very cozy TV show type of way, it's scary, but it's not horrifying. Like, there are certainly scary ass scenes in here, but Darcy does such good character development that I don't know, you never feel absolutely terrified, which is why I put it in a cozy. This is definitely more romantic suspense. Certainly not for everyone, but I really loved it, and I loved the ghost story within this. I'm like looking at the screen and I'm like, where do I go? What do I do? Fallcroft Ghost, it was given goosebumps. I'm gonna put it at boring, not because it actually was boring, but because I didn't like it. It's following preteens living at their grandparents' house, and their grandparents are hella weird. It's just a very goofy story. Crawl Space, I really loved. It's only like 20 pages. I am gonna put her at She's Just That Girl though. It is such a good example of how much of a punch Darcy Coates was able to pack in a story that's only 20 pages long. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so scary. The character development was fantastic for it only being 20 pages, and it left me feeling like I wish this was a full-length book. Haunting of Gillespie House, I'm also going to put into boring. I speak about my entire opinion on this in the Darcy Coates reading vlog, but really, we start way too late in this story. I feel no connection to the main character whatsoever, and like Fallcroft Ghost, it was giving goosebumps at times. It was giving goosebumps. I realize now, sounds like an insult. I love Goosebumps. It just very much is a horror series for children. Craven Manor, I adored. I'm gonna put it, and This Is What We've Been Waiting For, because I remember how much I loved this story, but I don't remember a lot about this story. Again, it's been years since I've read this book, but I remember that I adored it. I know that it's a haunted house story, I believe, following a man who gets a job taking care of a manor. And of course, said manor is really odd, and so is the owner of said manor. The Carol haunt is an all-time favorite. All-time favorite. Paranormal investigation at an isolated haunted house on a cliffside in the middle of a storm. Ghost book was terrifying. And the fact that I remember it so vividly years later and still have scenes that scare me, I just loved it. I adored this book. Hunted, I also loved. She's just that girl. What can I say? Darcy Coates can write. Hunted is following a woman named Eileen who is going into the forest as kind of a way to find herself. She's going on a hike, but she's being hunted. She quickly realizes that she disappears in the first chapter, and the rest of the book is her friends and her family trying to find her in this forest and grappling with the same thing that was hunting Eileen down. This is a thriller. If I could stop choking, that would be great. This is a thriller from Darcy Coates. It is such a fun thriller from her, and it had a twist that I didn't see coming and posed a very interesting question. There's a lot of body horror in here. It's a little bit slower pace. Some of the character work in the beginning did make me uncomfortable, which I fully discussed in my Darcy Coates reading vlog, but this is such a good example of the kind of thriller I would really enjoy. And since we just spoke about a thriller from Darcy Coates, we might as well speak about her other thriller, which is Dead of Winter, which is not her newest release. Her newest release is Where He Can't Find You, but the one before that. Dead of Winter, I'm gonna put at meh. And the reason it's meh is that it's a very, very predictable thriller. I felt like the characters were willfully ignoring evidence that was right in front of them. Did they always have brain cells? Questionable. But I do think this was Darcy Coates' attempt at having a book that has mass appeal. And even though I felt like this thriller was pretty predictable, I think that she succeeded in this. The Haunting of Blackwood House, I'm gonna have to put at meh because I can't remember jack shit about this book. House Next Door, I'm gonna The House Next Door, I am going to put at meh, even though I can remember this. It was just creepy scenes with dolls. I really enjoyed this story, but it isn't Darcy Coates' best work. Parasite, I'm gonna put at boring, but just know that's IDNF just because as soon as I started reading it, I knew that it wasn't a writing style that I was going to enjoy. This is more sci-fi from Darcy Coates. I just wasn't interested, so we're gonna leave it there. Small horrors, I am going to have to put at editing is your friend. The reason why, this is a short story collection, but all of the stories in here are the same story. There's like 3 or 4 basic story premises, and then each story in here is a variation of that basic story premise, which as a reading experience is really dull. A lot of the stories are way too short for you to feel any satisfaction from them. Stories had very abrupt endings, and it's not something that I would recommend. Quarter to Midnight is meh. Quarter to Midnight has a ton of Darcy Coates short stories that you see on her backlist. While there certainly were some scares in here, and I did overall have a good enough time with it, it's forgotten. Also, I gave like 3 stars. The Haunting of Lee Harker is editing is your friend. And the reason I'm putting that in this category is that this is a story about a woman who lives in this house. And as far as she knows, she's always lived in this house. But she's hearing tapping and knocking and things are being moved around. She thinks her house is like haunted. But there's a lot more weirdness going on here. And while I really loved where the story ended up going and the female friendship dynamics in this book, it was way too meandering at points. Like, it was overwritten with lots of boring details that we did not need, and that really brought the story down and took away from my enjoyment of it. Dead Lake is a fun time, but I will also put Dead Lake at meh. We're following an artist who is going into a forest. I believe one of her family members owns a cabin there, and she has an exhibition coming up, so she just wants to paint. The cabin is very remote, so she is on her own, except she comes to realize that someone is perhaps breaking into her home and that there's someone in the woods with her. It is a very intriguing story. It is also giving goosebumps, but in a fun, grown-up way. If you liked Welcome to Camp something, this one with the creepy cover, I think you would really enjoy Dead Lake by Darcy Coates because it's that, but make it scarier and make it grown up. The Haunting of Ashburn House, I also remember, which immediately puts it in meh because I can remember it. The Haunting of Ashburn House is a man who finds a deed in his mother's attic, and his mother's like, I don't remember what that is, but he needs some money, so he goes to renovate it, even though it's a very remote cabin. And of course, this house has been sitting abandoned for many years for very valid reasons, and he runs into those very valid reasons. While it certainly was scary and has some standout scenes, which I can still remember, it's pretty standard for Darcy Coates, and it follows the same plot points and same beats. So if you've read other works from her, this is not going to stand out to you in any major way. Gallows Hill. Editing is your friend because my God, this book was so fucking long. Oh my gosh. And it was long for no reason, because so many of the things in here, I'm like, damn, can we get to the point? Can we get to the point? And the answer is no, we can't get to the point. The plot itself wasn't that interesting, and the final reveal gave me an ick. If you read the book, you know exactly why it gave me an ick, but also didn't really make sense for what was going on in the story. So editing is your friend. I think this needed to be edited. It's well written, it's just overwritten. And The Haunting of Rickwood House, I could not tell you jack shit about this book. Do I know what it's about? Nope. Did I read it? Absolutely. But I read it many years ago, so I don't know, because I can't remember it. My gosh, I DNF'd this book at 50%. Do you know how dull a book has to be for me to put all of that work into reading it and to still DNF it? This book is boring as hell. It's supposed to be underwater sci-fi horror, and my gosh, is it not that. What it is a hell of a lot of confusion, way too many details, the perspectives are incredibly hard to follow, the dual timelines are not working, and I know some of you love this book, so if you love this book, good for you. I'm happy that you love this book. For me, it was boring. Unbelievably boring. Perhaps the most boring book I've ever read from Darcy Coates. So here is the final tier ranking. Looking at this list, I do stand by what I've said. Darcy Coates series definitely sit at the top of my list, but there are some standalones that I do think were great, like The Carroll Haunted, Crawl Space, and Crab Manor, all standalone that I really enjoyed. All the books in Meh, I think, really depends on you and your personal preferences. And the bottom two tiers are exactly what they are. Not books I necessarily recommend if you want to get into Darcy Coates. But with that said, we have come to the end of this video. My sinuses are trying to kill me. The air in this house is apparently dry as fuck because I've been choking to death. So I'm going to end the video here. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you did enjoy it. Let me know what your favorite Darcy Coates book is in the comments below. And if you've never read Darcy Coates before, also let me know that in the comments below. I'm gonna go before I cough out a lung, and I'm gonna see you in my next video. Bye!